8 minutes after 4, and I'm joined by two members of JABFUNG, the namesakes actually, Julian Anderson-Bose and Anthony Fung. LA-based drummer Anthony and Toronto-based Julian started the project back in 2014 through a residency at the Rex. Now, a decade later, the lineup has been solidified, and the band has released their debut recording, EPOCH, which they are officially releasing this week at the Rex as they continue their run through Saturday. Welcome to both of you. Great to have you here.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Let me see if I got the mic right there. Let's see. There we go. First, well, either tell me, you guys can answer however you like, but how did you meet and what was the musical connection that kind of made you guys feel like there was something here?
Well, I guess we met each other back at the Humber community program on Saturdays. I was in Jim Vivian's ensemble. I think you were in Kirk's ensemble, Kirk McDonald's ensemble. And since then, we were kind of just jamming on and off. Maybe after the program in the afternoons, we started hanging out. But yeah, it wasn't until perhaps I left to Boston when I studied at Berkeley, and I would come back, and we kind of just started having these residencies, and just, it kind of flourished from there.
So it was really that residency that brought it together?
Yeah, I remember even when you were still in high school and I'd started university, we were still playing a lot. And I actually remember the first song we ever played together, which is kind of funny. I think it was Juju.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was on a Saturday afternoon at Community Music.
Cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
nice.
But we must have felt, I remember feeling a connection pretty much instantly. And we always were trying to play together and jam, and I think that just naturally led to, like, hey, let's do something at the Rex, and we approached them, and yeah.
People talk about bass and drummers kind of being this, there is this kind of unwritten connection, even just as you get to the bandstand. Is that true? Is there something special about the instruments you play and the role that they have in the band that can lead to something different than a relationship you might have with a tenor player or a pianist?
Well, I'd say so for sure. Throughout the history of jazz, or the diaspora of jazz, I always feel like bass and drums are kind of the rhythm section, right? And it's always like we have the ability to steer the music in any direction. Ultimately, hypothetically, anybody has the ability to do that. But especially, I think, through rhythm, it's one of those things where it's the heartbeat of the music. So to be locked as one unit is really important. So that's what I always felt with Julian whenever we got a chance to play.
If you go back to 2014 and that initial residency, was there notions way back then that this could be something that we'd be sitting here talking about in 2025?
I think maybe not that early. I don't know if I was thinking like that far down the road at that time, but
we used to have conversations, after our gigs. We'd be at a like a restaurant or something like that, talking about our passions and our dreams and stuff like that. We were definitely thinking further out, but maybe not specifically like we would have something like this where we would culminate, a band and be touring it, so.
Early on, there was a lot of different folks that would come by. I think Kirk McDonald was part of those early days. But now let's talk about the two members who have made this band what they are. Tell us about the other two guys.
Yeah, well, I think we first asked Luis to join us in maybe like 2017 or 2018.
And we're talking about Luis Denez?
Yep. Yeah, Luis Denez. So he would have joined us for a couple gigs at the Rex when Anthony was in town around then. And I remember like the first time playing with you guys together, like Anthony and Luis, and just immediately feeling this like real strong connection. Like I think you guys are, your energy kind of super resonates with each other, and it was so exciting to kind of like be in the midst of all of that. So I think like after that point, it was always like, yo, let's call Luis.
Right.
Anthony, would you agree that the energy between you two was something special?
Oh, for sure, hands down. I think it's one of those things. He brings out the energy in me, and likewise to him. He's quite an energetic sax player, so we kind of need somebody to match his energy a little bit.
And who's the fourth member here?
And Rafael Zaldivar is a pianist. He lives in Marieville, Quebec, but he's originally from Cuba. And we didn't know this until we kind of met them, and we were all in the same room together. But they used to be childhood friends from Cuba.
Wow. When
they were 8, 9 years old. They studied under the same teachers. They, jammed and played together. They were listening through music at the same time. Back then, they keep on telling us in Cuba, somebody would visit and give them a Kenny Garrett record. And that one record was shared upon, hundreds of musicians. And then, maybe then they'll have a Brad from Marsalis record. And then they're sharing that record for, a bunch of musicians. So they kind of came up together.
Something to be said for less is more, having that one record and really being, instead of the smorgasbord of everything available to you all the time,
Exactly.
so treasured. You guys say you make it a super group, two sets of childhood friends from different generations. So I guess you're talking about you guys, childhood friends, and this generation, and then Raphael and Luis from their generation. Was it Luis who recommended Raphael to be part of the band?
It's got a little bit of both, actually. We kind of already had our eyes on him, and then...
Yeah, exactly. I think I might have been the one who reached out to Luis initially and said, like, hey, do you think Raphael would be interested in doing some stuff with us? And Luis came back immediately, and he was like, absolutely, like, I think he would love that, and he'd be a great fit. Like, you should definitely reach out to him.
The language that those guys bring from their own experience, and obviously you guys too, but having two Cuban musicians there, what does that bring? Is it rhythmic? Is it harmonic? Is it more general? It's just jazz music, and we shouldn't divide it into those types of things. Or was there a certain element that they brought that was truly unique to the band?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. Not only of course, the rhythmic aspect of like them coming from Cuba, but I think it's the friendship too. It's the humanity that they bring to the group. But also with rhythm, we both had an opportunity to study with really amazing musicians from all around the world. For instance, I had a chance to study with Danilo Perez. He was one of my mentors for about 6 or 7 years, and I toured with him, and I learned a lot about, clave and different folkloric rhythms. And then when we got a chance to play with Rafa and Luis, it just kind of fit. We all kind of had similar interests and also influences. And even in the past 4 or 5 days where we've been talking and traveling, we've been in the car for 8 hours a day, just listening to the same music. We're like, we're all not that much different. We all listen to the same stuff.
So cool.
Yeah.
So great. So on the new record, EPOCH, the songwriting is split right down the middle. You've got some tunes and you've got some tunes. Was that just the natural fall of things, or was there kind of this concerted effort to say, we'll halves it up and away we go?
Sort of. We actually made an attempt at mapping it all out beforehand because we knew what we were trying to do. Like, we booked these dates at the Rex. We were like, okay, let's record a record afterwards. And it was kind of interesting to try to fill in the blanks with the kind of creating a concept for an album and like assigning each other different songs. And very vague. Like, it's like maybe this one could be like a ballad, or this one could be in like a 6/8 feel, and we almost like imagining like different sections and like how these things would all fit together in the end. And of course the end result, like when you actually sit down and start writing, you kind of go with your instincts and your gut, and of course it looks a little different than you imagined initially. But it was sort of both of a mix of those things.
I guess you didn't want to go away and then come back with a similar feel, and like you wanted to sort of give each other different qualities to take on in the music, so that the album had a sort of a full 360 variety kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yes. You also threw a monk tune on the album as well. When you've got this perfect symmetry of both of you having those original compositions, how does a Thelonious Monk tune find its way into the mix?
One thing I think that's interesting with this band is like developing a bit of a performance practice together, and kind of over time understanding what works and how you play into different musicians' strengths, obviously. So one thing that like we were finding was working really well in our live sets was getting Rafa and Luis out of nowhere to play like a duo ballad. So we'd sort of finish playing something and be like, okay, you guys go, like pick something and start playing. And then they would sort of like think on their feet and go into like, and that was one that they would play a lot, was Ask Me Now. Right. And so we thought it would be kind of special to capture a bit of that in the studio. It was sort of at the end of the day, and
that was the take.
That was the take. It was one take, and Anthony and I just went into the control room, and I was like, okay, great guys, you got it.
Just on the bandstand, you just start to throw to them and say, do something, because you knew it was always going to be good, and there would be some spontaneity to it, and something that would change the dynamic of the gig a bit.
I mean, we're still constantly doing that now. I mean, even in these past 5 or 6 gigs, every single day it's just like, while we're on the bandstand, it's like, okay, now why don't you start, or maybe me and you will play something together. Instead of this song, why don't we just play this song? Or yesterday, for instance, we had an idea or sorry, we planned to have a set list and we planned to play this one song, and then Luis started this sax intro and then started playing a whole different song, and they didn't even have the music on their music stand yet, so they're like, oh, they're shuffling for music. It's pretty fun.
You're with Jazz FM 91. I'm speaking with two members of JABFUNG, Julian Anderson Bose and also Anthony Fung. They're at the Rex tonight through Saturday. While you're talking about how things have been going, I can't imagine so many gigs usually happen. They don't happen regularly with the same musicians. People are playing differently all the time. I can't imagine the joy of being able to multiple nights with the same people on the bandstand, that comfortable level, the things you're talking about, the nuances. Tell me a little bit about that experience. You guys have been, you were in Montreal, you've been in Quebec City.
Yep.
Tell me about that, a multiple night kind of feel and what it's like on the bandstand for musicians at a high level like yourself.
I think it blows me away. I was having this realization maybe after our first night in Quebec City, like I couldn't believe how the music keeps like reaching new layers. Like you feel like you're drilling down and down and down and finding new kind of energy in it that, like, you know, we're all on the same page, I think, in that we want to explore and see how many different ways we can look at the same material and how we can kind of expand it and evolve it over time. And we never want it to be the same. And it's really cool to like find some success there, where it's like I feel really good walking away from a show where I feel like I went somewhere I've never gone before, and I like feel surprised by what happened. And I think this group tends to capture that really naturally.
Anthony, you agree with those sentiments?
Yeah, hands down. I mean, also just to get into a different headspace every night as well too. Some nights, you know, if we're super tired, and I can't believe, you know, 30 minutes later we're playing the super energetic tune. I'm like, I can't believe that we're playing this with this much energy after being so tired. Or just, you know, kind of what you were saying. Every single night that same song can be completely different from the way that we played it yesterday. And then maybe tomorrow we're also going to play it differently as well too. So I love that.
It feels like that could be the ultimate goal is to as a musician take a tune like they asked me now and do something with it that makes it feel like it was your own, or something different happened, some magic in there that's not in the rehearsal space and not in the studio. It's something that's alive and crackling on the stage with an audience in front of you too.
Yeah, and also having that, also not being afraid to also just let it go, and maybe in the middle of the song just completely let that song go, right? I think that's really special too. That's something that this band does really well. Yeah, it's really fun.
All right, so you're there through the weekend. You've got a guest coming in for a couple of nights. Tell us about who's going to be with you, I think Friday, Saturday.
Yes, so we have Adam O'Farrell coming from New York. His dad is Arturo O'Farrell.
Pretty cool.
Yep. And he was, we used to play in a high school band in high school. So it was called the Monterey Next Generation Jazz Orchestra. And that's where I met him. But I've been following his career now. He plays with Hiromi. And Julian, you also went to Banff with Adam as well too.
I initially met Adam at the Banff Center, like the Jazz and Creative Music Workshop, and that was like 2013. And we did a lot of playing there, and then I haven't seen him basically since. But I've also been like following his career and love his music, and we both thought it would be like a really nice fit and a cool opportunity to, again, like just expand and evolve what we've been doing and see what that energy brings to this ensemble.
Right, and also kind of keep that collaborative spirit of, inviting people that are kind of, not from Toronto, and seeing how that also affects the music.
You just call them up and say, hey, want to join us at the Rex for a couple of nights? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
pretty great.
Yeah. Well, originally we wanted him to play all 4 nights, but then he was on the road with Hiromi, so...
And I'm guessing that he'll just hit the bandstand. There won't be a lot of rehearsing going on here. You just sort of the music will take you where it goes.
We're gonna do one rehearsal to get everyone up to speed and coagulated properly.
So we'll see how that works.
It's great to sit down and chat with you guys. Congratulations on the record. Congratulations on the run here. I also want to say both former Jazzology members here at the radio station.
I don't know if I did a Jazzology.
Didn't you?
Jazz FM Big Band. That's what I did.
All right.
Yeah.
We can take some ownership of you as well, Anthony. Appreciate you guys, and have a great weekend at the Rex, and thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Those are the members. Am I saying it right? JABFUNG, right?
Yeah, JABFUNG.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.